Hey guys, what is going on? Welcome to video number 2 in the 30 for 30 challenge, 30 business lessons in 30 days. I think that's what I'm going to go with for the wording on it. But anyway, what we're going to do is hop on my computer here in a minute. I got a sweet presentation put together, and we're going to basically break down exactly what I would do or if I was in the position I was in back in 2011, which was just starting out, but with today's technology, because the way that advertising works now is totally different than it was back then 6 or 7 years ago. So what we're going to be covering is basically doing the exact opposite of what pretty much everybody does when they start out in their lawn and landscape business. And it's exactly the opposite of what I did as well. I made a lot of mistakes, just stupid things, and we'll cover them all here in the video that really just cost a lot of time and cost a lot of money. And it's just one of those things that this will be a really nice shortcut if you are just starting out. Is in this 10-minute video, it will save you so much just time and headaches and probably a good chunk of money, and you'll even in fact make more money because of the fact. So this is probably going to be a little bit controversial. Some of the things I'm going to say will probably make some people mad because it's the polar opposite of what most people think that you should do when getting started with a lawn or landscape business. And if you easily get offended, well, you should probably not watch YouTube or anything on planet Earth, because people have different viewpoints. But yeah, don't be a snowflake. So let's get into my computer now. Alrighty, starting a lawn or landscape business from absolute scratch. This is exactly what I would do. I'd follow this exact protocol if I was getting started in today's day and age with the amount of technology that we have at our hands, because it's just incredible compared to 6 or 7 years ago. So rule number one though, and I'm going to make some people mad with saying this, but sales trump everything, especially because I just said the word Trump. So many people don't like him and whatever, but the word Trump is in the dictionary and it's used in this exact context. The first thing that you need to be focused on is getting money coming in, getting customers coming in the door, because at that point, just getting started, nothing else matters. It doesn't matter if it's a doctor's office, landscape company, software company. Well, software is a little different because you got to create it. But any service business, you need to have customers coming in, because without them coming in and paying money for the service, there is no business. There's no equipment to be purchased, or it is purchased, but it's not doing anything, so it's not making any money. There are no employees, and there is no owner salary because there's no money coming in. So just be aware and be focused on 100% getting sales coming in. And also you need to be focused on getting your life paid for, and you got to be able to afford your life and a vehicle, ideally a truck if you can do it. Otherwise, a car can certainly be used for a little while, but you're going to eventually want a truck for sure. But the jobs we're going to cover here can be done with a car. Will it be embarrassing? Maybe. But when you focus on your future and what you care about and your plan, that a day's worth of embarrassment or whatever is not going to mean much to you. So get a job, though, doing whatever it is that you can. If you have a skill set to get a good paying job from your college degree or whatever it is, then certainly do that. But what you're going to want to do is have a job that's not during peak hours. So that way you can do landscape jobs Monday through Saturday during the daytime, and you can then go work at your job at night or work your job super early in the morning, so 4 a.m. to 10 a.m. or whatever the case may be. But you just don't want to have a regular 8 to 5 job and then try to cram in your landscape projects during the weekend, because if it rains, that can cause a lot of stress, and that's not something that you want to deal with at all. So before you have any paying customers, do not buy any equipment at all. It makes no sense to spend $2,000 on wheelbarrows and shovels and all that sort of stuff, or even mowers or blowers or trimmers or trailers or any of that, until someone is willing to start paying you money. This is where a lot of people go wrong, and they go out and they spend all the money they have on equipment when they need to be focusing on advertising, so that way they can get customers coming in. The first things that you should buy, though, and this is where having a job helps, is getting the business registered, whether it's LLC, corporation, whatever. You're going to have to talk to a CPA about that. LLC seems to work just fine, but I'm not an accountant or CPA or anything that can give you legal advice. So also that's going to be $150. Then what you're going to want to do right away is, once the business is registered officially with your state, get a logo made, and then once the logo is made and complete, get the business cards done. You can get the logo from Conquer for $15, and then you can go to gotprint.com, gotprint.net, whatever it is, create a quick design there with your logo and the text, and get a business card template made, and then they can be printed and shipped for $25 or something like that. So that is the basic stuff that you need there. And then it is time for advertising. And I know someone's going to say, well, what about insurance? Well, when you land a job, then you call up your State Farm agent or whoever it is and say, hey, I need insurance. Because just like equipment, it's a lot easier to call up State Farm, or it's a lot easier to drive over to Home Depot to go buy wheelbarrows and shovels. And you can certainly call any State Farm agent and they'll gladly take your money to get a policy started and get it written up. They'll be done within 20 minutes and have you signed up and insured. And that's a lot easier to do than it is to convince someone to pay you money. I'm not saying it's impossible to convince someone to pay you money to perform a service, but it's harder to do than to drive to Home Depot and buy something, or drive wherever to buy whatever from anybody. So here is what we're going to be advertising for. Small landscape installations, no maintenance because you don't have any equipment. What you want is jobs that are going to give you a decent amount of volume and decent margins, with at least $250 to $1,000 or more per job. And the reason being is that with the deposit payment on these projects, you can then go to Home Depot and buy your wheelbarrows and shovels and all that sort of stuff. With maintenance jobs, if someone is signing on for, say, weekly mowing for the season, you aren't going to see any money from them until next month when they pay their bill, and unless they pay for the season out up front or something along the lines of that. But then you still have to buy the equipment, which is kind of expensive. You're going to need a couple $grand for a trailer, mower, blower, all that sort of stuff. With small installs, you can go get 2 wheelbarrows, some rakes, shovels, tape measure, and a small blower or a broom to clean up the job site after someone pays you that deposit payment of $250 or $500 or whatever it is. And then boom, you have all the equipment that you need to handle all these types of jobs. So you're going to be advertising for mulch, rock, plantings, so like mostly shrubs. Try to avoid ball and burlap trees because those are just a pain to try to move unless you have a skid loader. And then edging, just to install it, ideally plastic or whatever it is that's used in your location most commonly. And then maybe some small removal and replacement projects if you have a truck that can handle the weight, or if you have a truck that can pull a dump trailer, then more power to you. Then also sod installs with maybe some light prep work. If it involves some removal with using a sod cutter, then you're going to need a dump trailer and a truck that can pull it and all that sort of stuff. But you can literally do a sod install by having the supplier deliver. Actually, the majority of these jobs, you can have your supplier deliver all the material and show up. You could have a couple wheelbarrows and just the super basic tools, and boom, the job can get done, and you can make a good chunk of money, especially if you're out there doing the work with one guy helping you for, say, $10 an hour or whatever it may be, and you can make a serious amount of cash within a few days if you line up the job. So you need to be advertising for landscape installs, but try to stay away from hardscapes unless you have experience doing hardscapes, but they require a lot of specialized equipment. Certainly you can go rent that equipment if you'd like, but it's something that I would not recommend a beginner tries to take on. So the last part of this slide is that to make sure you take before and after pictures of every job. Even if it's just a tiny crappy $250 install, take before and after pictures from the exact same spot on the property, so that way you can show future customers and use it on your advertising and all that sort of cool stuff. Especially with today's cell phones, iPhones have like a 15 or 12 megapixel camera that's better than most cameras were 5 years ago. There's no excuse to not take pictures. All right, so now at this point, we know what we're going to be focusing on when it comes to the services. You need to be focused on what gets you paid, and now let's figure out what forms of advertising you should use in order to get the ball rolling, get things started on as tight of a budget as possible. So right away, most people are going to say, oh, go do flyers and all this sort of stuff. I think that is just the worst idea, because flyers are not that cheap to make, especially if it's a really nice design and a nice printing. Those are super, super expensive. The first thing that you should do is, after you register your business name and you know what it legally is, then go to, just follow the free course that we have here on the channel and build out a website, WordPress website. It'll take you about a day to do it, and it'll cost about $13 a month to have it exist. You can go get images from either free or paid stock image sites, depending on how much you have to spend. Just following that course, you go to Namecheap, you get the domain, go to HostGator, Bluehost, get the hosting, and then start doing basic SEO just like it's taught in that course, which is 100% free. It's right here on the channel. and do the basic SEO to get things rolling. But with SEO, it takes 2 to 6 months or so to see good results and to start to see a return on that investment. It's not a immediate short-term investment. And at this point in time, we need sales now, not 2 months from now. 2 months from now, is it important to have sales? Yes, but you've got to be focused on getting sales as soon as possible. But make that part of your strategy as well, is to have your site start to rank for SEO and all those organic terms. But the next thing that you need to do is claim your Google Maps listing. It's 100% free. You just go through the protocol and it's really, really easy. The next form of advertising that you'll want to use is Craigslist. It's 100% free. You can go and get images from the stock image sites, whether you want to pay for them or not. And with some good ad copy and making the ad actually look really good, which I covered in one of the videos here on the channel, you can land some pretty decent jobs and have some good clients. I had landed one client that ended up paying probably almost $3,000 worth of services in the first year. And the ROI on that is pretty dang good because it didn't cost anything to run the ads on Craigslist. So use it. Are there cheapskates on there? Yes, but you can get good clients. So next up are Facebook ads with a proper funnel. So many do this and they drive people to their site's homepage, or they just have them call, and a lot of people don't want to talk on the phone nowadays, and it's just so much easier for them to just submit their information on a website, and then you follow up with them later that day. And the reason Facebook ads are so awesome is because this can cost you $5 to $10 a day. If you're making $1,500 a month at the job, you can afford to do $10 a day. That's about $300 a month to do Facebook ads, and then you add in that $13 for the website hosting. And in most markets, this can get you maybe 1 to 2 leads a day, depending on your competition and your offer that you have on the site, as well as some other factors. But it's a lot better than pounding the pavement all day long with flyers and all that sort of stuff. And of course, you will need to have your social pages, so Facebook, Instagram, that sort of stuff. Those are free. There are some specific softwares that you would want to have that make Facebook ads ideal with building out pages and all that sort of stuff. It's about $350 a month for those types of softwares, but your WordPress site could certainly work for the time being. There's just some things you'd have to set up in order to make that work. But back in 2011, when I had gotten started, Facebook ads had just gotten started. Nobody was using them, and it certainly was not on my radar by any means. But nowadays, you got to be using Facebook ads. Like $300 a month, that is an absolute steal compared to spending $5,000 on a postcard campaign and then you have to distribute them, or even spending $1,000 on door hangers and then you have to go out and distribute them and spend days upon days upon days upon days, and you might not get anything. To me, it's a lot easier, it's a lot better of use of your time to maybe bring in a couple leads a day, spending $300 a month on Facebook ads, because it's just so much, your time is just freed so much, and you have way more time to do other things that can drive more revenue into your business. And so then once all these are up and running, and if you do have spare time, if customers are not already coming in, or you really just want to go be a hustler, then go pound pavement with door hangers or flyers, focusing on install sales that can be just like the numbers we talked about on the previous slide. But that's only if you already have all of these things running right here and things are working somewhat good, and then you have the time to do door hangers or flyers or things of that nature. It's just, I can't stress enough how much easier it is to run ads on Facebook than it is to walk miles upon miles every single day. And then if it's raining, it's going to be miserable, and it's just so much easier to reach people with an ad on Facebook or Instagram ad than it is to have to walk miles upon miles every single day. So now that you, at this point, have had some jobs get done and you have clients coming in, paid money, what you should do next is invest in more advertising right away. Spend a good chunk, I would say 30% of your profit, or maybe even more depending on how much you're getting paid at your job and all that sort of stuff, should just go right back into advertising. The more the better, because the more you spend on advertising, the more this drives growth in your business. Equipment does not drive growth unless it has customers that it can be out there working for. But what you're going to want to do is keep focusing on getting installs and getting clients for that for the first couple months. And then, of course, upsell every one of those clients on recurring maintenance services after you do the project. And then if a decent amount of them are interested and want to sign on for services, and you have the money to purchase the equipment, or if you feel like you want to finance the equipment for mowing and a trailer and all that sort of stuff, then you certainly can do that. But otherwise, just sub it out, because it's just going to be a lot more simple. Just make sure you have an agreement with your subcontractor, so that way if you decide to purchase equipment, they are no longer going to be working for the client, or they finish out the year or whatever, but you have the client and it's yours. They can't move in and steal the client from you. So just bottom line is, buying something that doesn't make you money right away in the very, very, very beginning, it just makes no sense. Are there going to be times when you spend maybe $50,000 on a skid loader, and obviously it's not going to pay for itself in the first month? It's an investment that's a relatively long-term thing. It's going to pay for itself over the course of time. But that is the biggest mistake that almost everyone makes, including me, in the first couple years. My whole former group of friends around me, and this is back at like age 19, and you're not exactly the brightest person that you are at 19 years old, but they all kept saying that I should buy equipment first because that's what everyone else does. And this is when I had no customers coming in. And the one thing that I didn't realize, that I was too naive to even know about at this point in time, was that none of these people that I knew that were telling me all this stuff had owned a successful business, or had even owned any business that made any amount of money. One of the biggest mistakes that you can make is to listen to advice from people about business that have never owned a business. Now, obviously, if someone has worked in customer service for many, many years or something, and they're saying that you should probably do this with a customer versus how it is that you're handling things right now, take the advice objectively, and maybe it makes sense. But when it comes to someone getting started and they're saying to not focus on sales and then go spend a whole bunch of money on something that's not going to make you money right away in the early stages, maybe question it, is basically what I'm saying with that. So are there investments, just like I talked about on the last slide, with big long-term plans where it's not going to pay for itself in the first couple months, like a set of wheelbarrows and shovels and all that sort of stuff? Yes, absolutely. You can go invest in an advertising campaign with an advertising agency to handle your Facebook ads or your SEO, and that's going to cost you a couple grand a month. However, over the course of the next 2-3 years, that could make 10x your money back. Same thing with a skid loader for $50,000, and you have to pay $2,000 or $3,000 a month, or however much it is for that. That's another investment over the long term that's going to pay for itself. So final notes on starting over from scratch: really just focus on being the absolute best in your market. Focus on dominating your competition and just being the best at what it is that your company does. Maybe you're really, really good at just doing mulch and plantings and rock and that sort of stuff, and you don't want to even do hardscapes. If that's the case, then become the best at it. The next thing is to really have confidence in your abilities to do projects. My first ever job meeting, or first meeting with a client, went terrible because I was super nervous, and it was just something I look back on and just say, wow, if I only had just done a little more research, I would have been just fine with it. But that's something I should probably cover in a later video. But have confidence in your abilities. When I had started exhuming confidence, we increased our close rates by 75 to 90% at sales meetings, because I knew we could do the job. I knew what the pricing was going to be and how to sell our services and all that sort of stuff. But the next thing is, you can say no to a particular project or job, especially if it's too big to handle at the point in time where you're at. Customers will respect you more. Now, that's not saying to don't challenge yourself, but if at this point in time you don't know anything about hardscapes, don't take on a 4-foot tall by 40-foot long retaining wall, and you've never even really built a super basic wall, then yeah, it's probably best to say no, because then a customer, and then make sure you say to your customer, hey, I have experience doing all this stuff, but I have never built a retaining wall or nothing of this caliber. Here's a company that can do an excellent job. If there are any services that we can help you out with in the future, please give us a call. Something along the lines of that will work out just fine. So hopefully at this point you learned something cool from this video. If you like it, be sure to go down below and subscribe. Hit the bell for the notifications, so that way you know when the next video comes out tomorrow and all the days after that with this whole challenge. And with all that said, we'll see you in the next video. Be sure to leave a comment if you have any questions down below. But yeah, we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching Launchpreneurship. Be sure to go down below and subscribe.